guys, as part of the IEP assignment, I'm going to talk about the Green Revolution and the consequences, positives and the negatives of the Green Revolution. So, in 1960s, India grew a concern about its sustainability and whether or not it will be able to grow food that is necessary to sustain its ever-growing population. So, in 1960s, apart from this, Lal Bahadur Shastri was more concerned about the agriculture sector than Nehru. At the same time, India was importing huge amount of food from the US, and at the time US President Lyndon Johnson was using this as leverage to intrude upon India's policies and politics. This made Indian people really angry. So Lal Bahadur Shastri, with the efforts of the Food and Agriculture Minister Chidambaram Subramaniam at that point of time, started to look for alternatives to how to improve and increase India's food production. So Subramaniam came to know about these Mexican seeds, if used, can increase the production and yield of crops by as much as 100%. But initially he faced a lot of opposition from economists from the opposite parties. The main concern of these economists were that it will increase the inequality in India, which was already really high. But Subramaniam didn't let go of the efforts. He kept continuing to persuade the opposition and economists. In the end, what he did was he used his own lawn and playground of his own bungalow to plant these Mexican seeds in a 5-acre area to show the amount of yield that is possible if India were to import these Mexican seeds. This was highly successful, and in the end, in 1966, India imported 16,000 tons of Mexican seeds. So this set the stepping stone, the first starting point of the Green Revolution in India. So this had many consequences. So I'm going to talk about the major consequences of the Green Revolution. So first was land reform. In order to improve the efficiency of farming in India, larger farmland were needed to increase the efficiency. But in India, due to the laws of divided inheritance, in which a farmer upon his death used to divide his land equally among his sons, the large land was not available. Only few rich people used to own large amounts of land. So India put a restriction, a cap on the amount of land one person can own, and the surplus land was redistributed among other people. So the second was high variety of high yielding seeds. So initially the import of Mexican seeds led to development of different high yielding seeds. For example, IR8 of rice. So these varieties of high yielding seeds, what they did was they required a low amount of area. So initially the high yielding seeds were the plants were very tall and they required to be planted far away from each other. So these new high yielding seeds required to be planted closer to each other, which increase the per unit output and the yield. And the third consequence was the mechanization. So because of the labor intensiveness, India started to adopt a lot of Western equipment for agriculture, such as tractors and automated electric and diesel pumps for irrigation. But these were largely unsuccessful in India because of they were not aligned with the knowledge and skill and the wealth conditions of the Indian farmers. So India adopted later different appropriate technologies which aligned with the knowledge and skill and the money that the farmers had. So these were relatively cheaper cost irrigation systems. So now let's look at what were the success factors of the Green Revolution. So due to the Green Revolution, India became self-sufficient in terms of food, and they didn't rely on US for so much of import of food. Apart from that, the farmers who were able to afford these new seeds and these new machines were able to increase their yield by as much as 300%. And because of that, a lot of subsistence farmers who started to gain a surplus which they could sell into the market for money, and this money they started spending on school, clinics, etc. Due to this increased spending on school and clinics, the health and the education level improved in India. So now let's look at the failures or why it was not so successful in India. So first point was the machines that were required was very expensive, and only a few number of farmers were able to afford that. And because of that, the income inequality, because of only rich farmers being able to afford the machines, the income inequality increased. Second, a lot of farmers in India was tenant farmers, so they were not even able to afford the high yielding seeds. So the income disparity grew really high. The third point was the disparity between the states and the regions. So because these seeds were imported only into the states which had enough water supply and enough fertilizers, so only states like Haryana, Punjab, and Western UP were able to gain advantage of the seeds, and the other states, southern states such as Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, were not able to utilize the advantages of these seeds. So this resulted in growth of interstate disparities. So apart from that, some farmers took loans in order to purchase these high-tech equipments that were required, and that increased their debt level, and this also increased the suicide levels among farmers. So these were few of the points I wanted to talk about. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.